Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Abby Lee Miller. Bougie Todd Chrisley can't handle prison. Dance Mom star Abby Lee Miller suspects her pal Todd Chrisley isn't faring too well in prison because he's far too bougie to be there. Spending a little under a year behind bars, Abby Lee Miller speaks from experience when she says whether or not she thinks Todd will survive behind bars. Turns out, Abby and Todd even spoke briefly via DMs before he went behind bars. Her advice for him, however, was pretty simplistic, and she suspects it probably wasn't too helpful. Abby Lee Miller thinks Todd Chrisley is too bougie for prison. Speaking to ET's Denny Directo, Abby Lee Miller opens up about her thoughts on Todd Chrisley and his wife Julie collectively being behind bars for 19 years. For the most part, her exclusive interview with ET focused less on Julie and more on Todd. Abby admits that her pal Todd is a very bougie individual. In fact, she suspects Todd is having a difficult time adjusting to life behind bars simply because of the lifestyle he is used to living. Abby Lee Miller explains it is a lot of small amenities. People don't think about that are going to present real problems for Todd Chrisley. For example, she said simple things like soap and towels are going to be issues for someone as bougie as Todd Chrisley. She adds that he won't be able to handle it. The Dance Moms star proceeds to explain that there are ways for someone with his level of pampering lifestyle to survive. But it is a rough adjustment. She explains that if he can figure out how to do some trade-outs, he can get what he needs to survive. She gave him advice before going in. Abby Lee Miller did have an opportunity to speak to Todd before he went behind bars. She reveals they explained a few DMS related to prison life. During her exchange, she recalls telling Todd to be careful during his time behind bars. Unfortunately, Abby didn't offer any additional information on what they talked about or what types of questions he might have asked. But it sounded like Todd may have reached out with the hopes of getting some solid advice on surviving prison life for him and his wife. When Abby Lee Miller first heard that Todd Chrisley had been sentenced to federal prison, she nearly dropped her phone in disbelief. Not because she thought he was innocent. Abby had learned a long time ago that appearances can be deceiving in the world of reality television. But because she knew, from experience, that prison was no country club. And if there was one thing Abby Lee was sure of, it was that Todd Chrisley, with his designer suits, perfectly coiffed hair, and endless taste for luxury, was going to have a very, very hard time adjusting. I give him 3 weeks before he's crying over the cafeteria food, Abby told a close friend with a laugh. That man is too bougie to handle prison life. You can't talk your way out of chow hall rules. You can't charm your way into a better mattress, and you sure can't complain to the guards about thread count. Abby knew what she was talking about. Back in 2017, the Dance Moms star had done her own stint behind bars after being convicted of bankruptcy fraud. She remembered walking into Victorville Federal Correctional Institution, holding her breath, her mind racing with the same disbelief that Todd likely felt on his first day. This can't be happening to me. I'm not cut out for this. But prison didn't care who you were before you walked through those gates. Reality stars, business moguls, or average citizens, everyone became just another inmate. Abby quickly learned that lesson, and she suspected Todd was learning it too. Bougie meets reality. Todd Chrisley's reputation was built on southern charm, over-the-top wealth, and a self-proclaimed mastery of keeping up appearances. His reality show, Chrisley Knows Best, was full of designer clothes, manicured lawns, luxury cars, and lavish vacations. Todd prided himself on being the patriarch who controlled everything, from the way his family dressed to the way they spoke. But in prison, control was the first thing stripped away. You can't demand Evian water when everyone's drinking from the same rusty fountain, Abby quipped during a podcast interview. You can't ask for gluten-free meals when your tray comes with mystery meat and instant mashed potatoes. Bougie doesn't work in prison. It makes you a target. For someone like Todd, who lived for appearances, The loss of luxury wasn't just uncomfortable. It was devastating. He was no longer the man in charge. Instead, he was just another inmate, wearing the same khaki uniform, standing in the same line with the same set of rules. One of the first shocks Abby predicted for Todd was the social hierarchy of prison. Reality TV stars often imagine they'll be admired or feared because of their fame, but behind bars, celebrity status doesn't carry the same weight. When I walked in, some women knew who I was, Abby recalled. They wanted to talk about Dance Moms, ask me about the girls, the show, the drama. But that novelty wore off fast. Once you're in, you're just another body in the yard. She imagined Todd would have a similar experience. At first, some inmates might crowd him with questions about his show, curious about his life outside. But eventually, the reality of daily survival would set in, and Todd would find himself facing challenges he could never script. Prison isn't Bravo or USA Network, Abby said with a smirk. You don't get to edit the footage to make yourself look good. You either adapt or you struggle. Bougie habits die hard. Prison is designed to strip away comfort. But Abby knew that Todd's bougie habits wouldn't die easily. She could already picture him in the commissary line, eyeing the off-brand instant coffee with disdain, muttering about how he only drank Starbucks, or fussing over the scratchy sheets, lecturing his bunkmate about thread count, as if luxury linens might magically appear if he complained loudly enough. I bet he's trying to figure out how to make prison ramen taste like a 5-star meal, Abby joked. Probably sprinkling in whatever spices he can get and pretending it's filet mignon. But bougie habits, Abby warned, don't just make you stand out, they make you vulnerable. Prison was about blending in, adapting, and not drawing the wrong kind of attention. The louder Todd complained, the more likely it was someone would see him as a mark. A lesson in humility. For Abby, prison had been a humbling experience. She went in with her own pride, her own stubbornness, but over time, she learned that survival meant letting go of ego. She had to eat what was given, follow the rules, and find ways to keep her head down. I think Todd's biggest challenge will be humility, she explained. He's used to controlling the narrative, but prison doesn't let you do that. You can't spin it. You can't charm your way out. You can't buy your way to comfort. You have to face yourself, stripped of everything else. In some ways, Abby almost pitied him. Almost. Because while she knew the struggle was real, she also knew Todd had built his life on projecting an image of perfection. To see him forced into caucus, eating cafeteria slop, without the ability to micromanage his family's every move, Abby had to admit, there was a certain irony in it all. The Chrisley family factor. Prison isn't just about the inmate. It's about the family left behind. Abby remembered how her own absence affected her dance students, her business, and her reputation. For Todd, the stakes were even higher. His wife, Julie, was also serving time. His children were left scrambling to hold the family together, with Savannah stepping up as caretaker and spokesperson. The Chrisleys had always lived in a bubble of wealth and control. But with both parents locked away, that bubble had burst. Abby predicted that the pressure on Todd would only grow. He's not just another inmate, she said. He's a husband separated from his wife. A father who can't control what his kids say or do. For someone like Todd, who lived to control everything, that's worse than the prison food. That's the real punishment. A strange kind of empathy. Despite her sharp words, Abby did feel a strange empathy for Todd. She knew what it was like to walk into prison for the first time, to feel the shock of losing freedom, to realize the life you'd built could crumble in an instant. But empathy didn't erase the truth. Todd Chrisley is bougie, Abby said bluntly. Always has been, always will be. Prison doesn't care about boogie. It doesn't care about your labels, your bank account, or your reality show. And Todd, he's going to have to learn that the hard way.